Why don't you do the lead in?
Hi, I'm Josh Hauser. This is you, just like this is.
Yeah.
And this is the Lucky 13 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, and our other host is
Mike Lantz.
And that's why you should always do the lead in, because
Yeah,
that was
that's all
rough.
That's
That was
okay.
not good.
That's great. We are an unedited, unfiltered podcast. So
Yeah.
as crazy as that might
Bad day
sound.
to have Taco Bell.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. How about Cracker Barrel, bro?
Oh, look.
Here's my thing. Do people really care that much what the damn logo says or looks
Just
like?
don't muck up the pancakes. Just don't muck up the pancakes, please. So our family has a rule: when we travel, we only stop at exits with Cracker Barrel. If you study Cracker Barrel, they only put their locations in safe exits, and they always have clean restrooms. I got 8 kids, 7 girls.
Ain't
in
clean
the car.
when they walk out.
No, no, there's usually yellow tape and a mop, but that's because the boys don't aim well. But we always stop at Cracker Barrel. That's where we've always gone to Cracker Barrels, and we always get a pancake dessert chaser. I mean, everybody in the family, even the little one, will order whatever they order and a pancake dessert chaser, and we always have them bring the pancake out right when we're about done eating.
Yeah,
and that's our dessert. So I'm a traditionalist. I understand things change and evolve. Just don't muck up the pancakes, dude.
It's crazy to me that someone can change a logo and the market value can go down $700 million in a day, just because of it.
I have loved
logo.
all the memes of everybody changing their logo that looks identical to it.
Yeah. Okay, I want to read. So you, we love Ben Hardy,
He's
right?
awesome.
Ben wrote a trilogy of books with Dan Sullivan,
Correct.
the founder of Strategic Coach. My favorite of those 3 books. Well, there's 2 that are really my favorites. One is Who Not How.
Absolutely.
Which is, when you're, how many times you sit in a boardroom or something and you go, how do I do something, instead of go, who do I need to?
Who can do that for us? Yep.
And then the other one is 10X is easier than 2X.
Yep.
So then I think really where Ben wrote that with Dan Sullivan, and then I think, which is a great concept, but there's no real how-to about how to 10X your business in a relatively short period of time. So he wrote the book, The Science of Scaling. I will tell you that, the 3 people that endorse his book is Robert Gay, who's the former senior manager of Bain Capital.
Yeah, not bad.
Tony Robbins, he wrote the foreword.
Asked to write the foreword.
Yeah.
After he read the book, he wrote Ben and said I want to write the foreword.
Yeah. And then Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
Like 3, 3. It's a legit book. So
all potential Rushmores.
Yeah, and so it really gives you a framework for how to scale your business. We'll talk more about this in future episodes because there's so much there. But there was a quote in here that I was reading yesterday. According to Garnet Morris, a near billionaire whose Canadian life insurance company does more business than any other competitor by a factor of 10, says the reason people don't scale their business is because they constantly lie to themselves.
Oh my gosh.
They lie to themselves. They lie to themselves about their own performance. They lie to themselves about the consequences of their actions. They lie to themselves about their trajectory. They justify not being accountable to and it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
This isn't reading time.
Well, when I went through it, first of all, I'm like, why is this guy following me around talking to me? Just wrote my life story on there because once you have to deal with yourself before you can deal with others, and that was a real thing.
So here's my question for you: as you're out working with clients and just whether they're clients or not, what are the top 3 areas you think business owners today are lying to themselves about?
Well, and with permission, I'm going to use some of the components of EOS.
Yeah, for sure.
And that people component, I think the right people, right seat. We have an emotional attachment to people. And we'll feel like somebody's at complete capacity or they're performing just like he talked about in that quote, performing exactly where they need to be, and we don't know what's capable. We've never pushed, it's the Roger Bannister, can we actually run a 4-minute mile? Yeah. And so I think teams lie to themselves that they're getting the absolute max out of everybody, not realizing there's more there. There's more juice in that.
Yeah, and even out of themselves. Right?
Yeah,
I just don't.
Starts with them.
I just don't think. I put myself in this category. I don't think we really understand what we're truly capable of.
What we talked about in the last episode, I go to a QCE with all my implementers, and I think I'm on top of my game, and you get hit in the face with, I'm average. Yeah. And there's more work to be done. Yeah. And so unless you're putting yourself in those positions and then being willing to hear that people thing will sneak up.
How about another one?
Second, I think the value of their business or their product, they either under or overestimate that drastically. And so I see that on the regular, and they lie to themselves. I can't charge more, or what I'm charging is right for the market, and they haven't actually aligned and done the work with their team, with their product, with what they're doing. and really evaluated what is the right quote unquote model for them to follow. Does that make sense?
Yep. How about one
and
more?
then third, I mentioned it earlier, so I'm going to tie it back to the people, but the amount of time they have, the use of time, that inventory time, it's so powerful. It's the number one inventory we have. And I watch teams not maximize their time. And you've heard me say it before. They spend busy is the new broke, and they spend a lot of busy time and not a lot of productive time. I think most of my teams could work half the time they're doing and get the same exact result if they just did productive time.
Yeah.
And can you imagine doing that productive time the whole week? What would that look like?
Yeah.
So, and that's me as well. So when I say teams, I'm not throwing any of my teams under the bus.
No, I get it.
Because I'm as responsible for anything. But it's a self-realization you have to go through.
Yeah, and again, we'll get to it later, but in future episodes. But that's one of the things that they really talk about in the science of scaling is compressing the time. And like, if you say you want to be $1 billion business in 10 years, why not say in 3? What would have to change in order for you to do that? And and on a previous episodes, I talked about, in my past where I was workaholic and working 80 hours, and I had a coach that said you can only work 40.
Yeah.
Like
what do you give up?
What would you do?
What
would you do? How would you do it differently?
I just did this with the team. I said, here's your 3-year goal or 3-year picture that you planted. The board of directors just called me yesterday and says we have to do this in 1 year.
Yeah.
What do we have to do? What do we have to stop doing?
Yeah.
It was amazing how many things just instantly fell off. And then we had to ask the question, so why are we doing that now?
Yeah.
Just because we hypothetically moved it?
Yeah.
So it's a good cleansing to go through.
Yeah. So great book. Highly recommend it. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it, but I wanted to bring a couple of those things in. We'll talk more about it as we go and really
one of my
unpack that
favorite
framework.
quotes, which is going to tie into this, is amateurs do things until they
can do it right.
Professionals do it till they can't do it wrong.
Yeah,
it's
that's
just,
right.
It's not, and that's I see this conversation, and even the conversation we're gonna have today, and even that conversation, and myself. I got to get to that professional level. You got to chase that professional level. I just won't do it wrong, rather than I just want to make sure I do it right.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah. So we talked about you going to this QCE for EOS, and Mark Stanley made some presentations around business finances and things like that. And so he kind of unpacked 8 nuggets. We talked on our previous episode about the 5 numbers we ought to look at. Those are all common. Yeah. I don't want to say they're common sense, but if you own a business out there and you don't know what these 5 numbers are, guys, like. God help you.
And even if you do and you're not living on them, thriving on them, diving into them, you're missing it.
Yeah. So let's dive into some of these nuggets. So set them up, what these are, and then we'll kind of go through the 8.
So as Mark went through this with us, what if we just implemented some nuggets that we just did as a baseline check to make sure that we are understanding how money goes in and money goes out of our organization, and now spread it wildly.
Yeah.
So let's say you're a 250-person company. The 249th and the 250th person in the company, as they've come on board, actually understands what role they play as it pertains to this. And so what he did is he unpacked some nuggets. We talked about a little bit last time, a couple of them, which we'll dive into again quicker this time, but just some things to think about. And if you just wrote these 8 things down and then took a look at your company, I wonder how many of these would just pop out of, I need to eliminate that, or I got to start doing that. This is that amateur professional conversation.
Can I go first?
Please.
This one, our podcast is called Lucky 13, All Things People and Profit. And so the first nugget is every seat drives cash.
Absolutely.
Profit is everyone's job, not just finance's job.
Absolutely.
And I think my view of everyone means like everyone.
Correct.
Not everyone on the leadership team, not everyone director level and above. I mean, everyone.
Yeah, that's not my job is not acceptable.
Yeah. Well, and if you just, at the very minute little level, like if my company provides me water bottles, right? And I notoriously only drink half of it and throw it away, and my company has to constantly be replenishing, that's throwing profit away. That's right. And I know I'm being very, very basic around
absolutely.
that. But we want everybody inside of an organization understanding how we make profit, how we drive cash, and how their behaviors of performance, waste, whatever it is, impact that times however many employees that you have.
Yeah, I had one of my companies one time, we probably lose about 10 hours of productivity of our folks each week. And so we just did the math on that, and it was unbelievable doing that. And then when I say that, who's in charge of that? Do they understand how that drives profit? And do those people, given those 10 hours away, do they understand how each seat, what that means when they're not providing those 10 hours?
Yeah. And my experience has been that it's the responsibility of the CEO, the owner, the leadership team to teach their people about this and understand what the drivers are.
And let's call it what it is. Money's emotional, so we don't talk about it. We don't share it. And the reality is, how can you get on the same emotional plane with a team that wants to drive a culture until they understand how money's driving, what they're doing is driving the money of the organization, which is security and opportunities for them in the future as well.
Yeah. Okay. So every seat drives cash. Profit is everyone's job, not just finance. How about another one?
That's right. So I love this concept of start broad, then sharpen. I want you to think about everybody puts their ideas on the board, similar to what we did in the last episode where we talked about just 5 quick levers we can think about drive. Let's put all the ideas on the board and then narrow that down. It's actually driven right off the book you just talked about, Science of Scaling. Let's get all the framework built and then set the floor. These are going to be our new focus points. Does that make sense to you? And so you got to have a brainstorming session of how can we drive profit or drive cash, and then narrow it down, because you're going to have 50 things on the board and that's not going to work.
So give me an example. Like
a great example is a company that worked with, they could sell to anybody, their product to anybody. Some were profitable and some weren't, and they weren't measuring that. They were just measuring how much they could sell. So when we listed all the companies we could sell to, and then we studied which ones do we make profit on, and then what kind of companies that is, the psycho, demo, and geographic of those companies, we narrowed our marketing focus and everything just to go to there. And all of a sudden, the sales, amount of sales went down, but the profit of the sales went up, and we were growing faster than what we were doing. We went from selling 100 units a month to selling 20 units a month and making more money doing so.
Yeah, and then everybody has more fun, and it's easier to manage, and you don't spend as much below the
And the
growth
team
margin
came
line.
up with the idea.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one person sitting around doing that.
Yeah. Set real goals is the third one. Every number needs a hard target, and so I love the use of the word hard target. Like, this is what it is. It's not a little bit more. It's not a little bit less, but being very, very clear where everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of teams that I get to spend time with, I love it when they'll set a revenue number. We talked about this before, 10 million, and they come in at 8. And I'm like, okay, was 10 million a hard target, or is that just because 10 is a really cool number?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so you got to spend time on each target that you're going to set. It has to be hardened up. It has to have some geometric proof to it. Here's how I got to the number. And then I believe you should have a standard deviation on either side of, do you get a 5% miss on either side or 10%? Using that bullseye concept. Yeah. How far out can I be from the bullseye that I'm still allowed to play darts?
Yeah. So I brought this up on our last episode, 2 episodes ago. At Defenders, I learned this there. I've learned since then, I think it is a strategic coach concept, but the idea of minimum, primary, and visionary goals.
Correct.
And so this covers that standard deviation. And so for everything we did, we'd have a profit included, revenue, everything, a minimum, primary, and visionary. Minimum, if we don't hit it, somebody's probably losing their job. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't hit it in that day or that quarter, but if it's consistently missed, their job is to hit that number.
Correct.
We need to make sure that people that are in those jobs can hit those minimum numbers. Primary was the goal. So the budget was always set at primary, the whole thing. And then visionary, God has to get involved. Like, that's your stretch. And so that gave us the standard deviation on it. But we knew, hey, if the number was 100 million in revenue, it was 100 million in revenue.
Yep.
And everything was based on that.
I had it's funny you said set hard goals. We interviewed a guy who said he makes 600 calls a week. And we started doing the math on that. And like, how was that possible? And that was his goal. And he was hitting that goal every month, but the sales weren't following. So that wasn't a hard goal. That wasn't real. And so hard goals also have to be inspected, is really what I come back to. How did you get to 600? Why is 600 important? It's really diving into the how, what, why behind that.
I'll take the next one too, because I just love it. Name the owner. One clear owner for every number equals better outcomes.
Has to.
And here's the thing. It doesn't mean, like, if I own, like in my company, I own the profit number, right? That my job is to deliver the profit number, because we are open kimono when we talk about profit and expenses and all that. Everybody, there's nothing that we hide other than telling people individual salaries. Okay. And so we don't do that, but it's my job for the team to deliver the profit number so they can all earn their profit share number. But for me to own that number, I have to get help from other people. Correct. But I own the number. If we miss profit numbers, I stand up in front of the entire company and I say, I failed. Yep. But I need help from everybody else. So I own the number, but we can enroll other people's help.
I love that we're entering football season, because this is when I see this. I think of, we'll just talk about any defense. Well, the defense has you have the head coach, and then you have a defensive coordinator, right? And then there's a defensive line coach, but there's guys who coach ends, guys who coach tackles. You got linebackers who have inside and outside linebackers. You have a DB coach. And so what they've done is they've assigned let's just quote them, numbers that has a direct correlation. This person's responsible for the production of that. And you see at the end of every season, like a lot of times the DC doesn't get fired, but the cornerbacks coach gets fired or the safeties coach gets fired because they did not hit the quote unquote numbers that they needed to have. And I love that accountability. It makes it hard in that business, but it sets clear. And I've been shifting a lot because I talk about rules, tools, and disciplines. At this point of professionalism, we no longer have rules. We have standards. And so rules get thrown out the door when you have a name of an owner, and now you have a standard.
Yeah.
And that changes the dynamic a lot.
Yeah. And then when that person accepts accountability for that, it makes the conversations around why certain numbers haven't been hit a lot more comfortable. And the conversation shouldn't be around it should be the numbers not being hit. It's not personal, but let's all get behind that person and help them.
The number's the problem. The person isn't the problem unless the person doesn't seek to collaborate to fix the number.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
How about another one?
The move it, don't measure it. Oh my gosh. I look at so many people whose scorecards are reporting mechanisms, how we did, high fives, or woe was me, rather than the scorecards are telling what actions we need to continue, what actions we need to change, or what actions we need to go to discover. And so when I look at a scorecard, I know I see reds and greens. I don't ask anything about the numbers. I don't ask anything about the goals. I ask, what does it tell you? If this is the only thing you had on your business today, what does it tell you need to do next? There's a great quote. If you took a clarity break, if I only did one thing based off my scorecard, what would it tell me to do? And if you just spent the time looking at my score, that one thing is the one action I need to go change. Yeah. And so many people, the number is what they're chasing rather than the action the number's telling them.
Yeah. And I think every business can be a little bit different. I'm going to ask you a question, and I get business to business is different. What should be the alarm bell on some scorecard numbers? How many weeks do we see it in red before we really have to start calling it a question, or what? Like, what do you coach people?
Well, first, one time is an event. I don't mind dealing with an event. I'll drop a one-time down in a heartbeat to an issues list and what happened this week. Well, it was a 4-day week. Okay, I get that. Or Joni was on vacation, or Chachi had an illness. That's all real things. 2 times is a coincidence, okay? But 3 times is a trend. And if you look in 13 weeks and you've had 3 red numbers, either in a row or during that time, you got to start do we have the wrong numbers? Do we have the wrong people? Do we have the wrong process? Is something changed in the marketplace? There's probably 50 questions to ask. The red numbers are not telling you that we're failing. The red numbers are telling you're not asking the questions to find out what success can be.
Yeah. The way I'd like to think about it too, and that's great advice. Anything that goes red in my mind is on the like 1 week you're on the watch list.
Hot list.
Like it's the hot list. We might not drop it down to an issue, but like I'm thinking about it. Yep. And, then if it shows up again on the next one, it's coming down. Like we've got to, right? Because I want to catch it before it becomes a trend, right?
And so what I tell leadership teams is 3 is a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
We deal with trends.
Yeah.
Once, like if it happened in week 2 and then week 10, okay, there might have been a coincidence in there. But my argument is, wouldn't it be worth it to drop down to check it?
Why not?
Just drop it down.
Yeah.
It could be I have seen one red number turn into a 45-minute conversation that changed the trajectory of a company.
Yeah.
Because they finally winning mass all problems, right?
Yeah.
And they finally had a loss and they had to deal with it.
Yeah. Anchor the gains, lock wins into budget and scorecard. Share more on that.
So
unpack that.
Once it's based off, think about gap and gain. That's the 3rd book he wrote with Dan Ben wrote with. So when you find a gain that's working, let's lock that in, and now becomes the new. I'm going to use your flooring, your minimum. That becomes the new minimum.
Yeah.
And so when you anchor, okay, now that we have it set and we now have proven, this is what I always say about coaching kids, that when I tell a kid you got to run a line drill in 30 seconds and they run it in 28, guess what their time is next time?
28.
Okay, that's locking in the gains. I now know you can run it in 28. Now let's see if we can get to 27. And so locking in the game, once you realize what you can do, let's lock that in as our new norm, and which is just elevating what you were from yesterday.
Yeah, it reminds me of a concept too that is tangentially related to this, but I shared that book, Profit First, right, a while back. And one of the things they talk about in there is that, every month, however frequently you want to do it, you're moving your profit dollars out of your operating account into your profit account, and you are locking it down.
Correct.
Like it is no longer that. It's like that cash is no longer yours.
Doesn't exist.
When you got to move tax money over, it no longer exists, and you can't go borrow it back and that sort of thing. And it's locking in those profit numbers, because so much of the time we're like, okay, I made tons of profit in the first 6 months of the year, and the back half's pretty soft, but I'm going to borrow against my. Instead of doing the right things for the business to increase the profits in the back end.
Yeah, I think we get that back to the NFL. Quarterback plays well this year, so we write a 3-year contract for him for the next 3. When I still believe the league should be paid as you play.
Yeah,
paid on your wins, paid on your losses, paid on your performances, and I think it changes the output. I know it would change NBA basketball if we paid more for the regular season, because playoffs you can see what they look like.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah.
I would watch playoff basketball 72 or 82 games during the regular season if they played like that all the time.
Yeah, another example that I just recently went out. We're here in Indianapolis, and I went to the Live Golf Tournament, and that was out at Chatham Hills, and a lot of those Live players, if not all of them, they get paid a base pay,
correct,
a base wage.
That's a little different.
There is a purse with each tournament, and there's a massive purse at the end of the year, but. I was talking with some buddies I went with, and they're like, it just doesn't feel as competitive. Like it doesn't, it's a lot of fun. We had a blast out there, but it's just not as competitive because they already know that they're going to get on their private jet and fly home, and they can afford to do that whether they win or they don't.
When you're playing with security, you play differently. When you're playing for, I'm going to call it, please not to this level, but for your livelihood.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when you watch a guy on the PGA who wins his first tournament ever and just got his card for the year, that emotion is real.
Yeah.
Because he's been playing for years to get that livelihood. That's why I love college basketball.
Yeah.
You lose, and you can go from a 3 seed to a 6 seed, or you can lose 2 games in a row and all of a sudden be out of the NCAA tournament. Those are real things.
Yeah. We've got 2 more to go here. Make it visible. Share everywhere to build buy-in. So I'm assuming this means like, put it up on a board, a whiteboard on a screen somewhere where people really understand where you are.
I'm going to give them a shout out to Sunco, one of my favorite companies down in Mooresville, Indiana, growing rapidly. In their, I'm going to call it their war room, all of their quarterly rocks, their 1 year, their 3 year, their measure, everything is public. And they check boxes as they get things done. And when I say they check boxes, whoever was responsible for that number, if we go back to name the owner, that's who checks the box.
Wow.
And they watching those boxes get checked, and they're going to hit their goal this year in 9 months that they planned for 12. And so our message is, okay, now that we know that we measure it wildly and everybody cares, now we got to start to up our game again, and we got to re-anchor what our new norm is.
Yeah, I love that. What we use 90.
Of course.
It's a great software and all that, but there's no but to that. Okay,
Yep.
And I love the idea of putting it up visible somewhere, not necessarily 90, but on a whiteboard, your numbers and all that, because I've got to log into 90 and I got to look at the scorecard and all of that. Where if it was just up on a whiteboard or a screen every single day, I'm going to look at it every single day. So I love that.
Love it.
Keep it in front of me.
All right, let's finish this last one.
The last one, find millions in minutes. Go for that.
Can you imagine let's just start with the leadership team, taking 1 hour, just 1 hour, and say, let's look at these little nuggets that we talked about, those 5 cash flow quick things that we talked about in the last conversation, or those 5 measurement tools that we talked about, and just for 1 hour, let's just look at every piece of it. Let's unpack it all the way through and look for the opportunities we have. Does that make sense? Just a dedicated 1 hour. And if you did that once a month or once a quarter or once a year, I guarantee that if you did that with your team and then they took that same exercise and did it with their departments, you'll find millions in minutes.
Yeah.
When I say minutes, let's say you got 5 departments in a leadership team in 6 60-minute sessions. I can't guarantee it. I can't do that, but I'm guaranteeing you're going to find money that you didn't know, find opportunities that you can create, and find new ways of looking at things, and your floor is going to raise.
Yeah. And so I would challenge everybody who's listening, whether you're running on EOS or you're not running on EOS or however you do it, it's your next leadership team meeting. Take an hour.
Yeah.
Make it your number one issue.
60 minutes of cash.
And say, we're going to spend 60 minutes talking right now about how we can increase our cash.
Yep.
And go through those. And you're going to find them and then put assign an owner, throw it up on a whiteboard somewhere and track it.
Absolutely.
Right.
All
Good
day
deal.
long.
All right. Great stuff. I appreciate you bringing this back to us.